Before we begin, we want to share a quick note with our listeners. Today's episode includes a personal story involving a child's gender transition, faith, and serious illness. This conversation reflects one family's lived experience and is shared with care, honesty, and love.
Our intention is not to persuade or debate, but to create space for understanding and compassion. We encourage all of our listeners to engage with empathy.
This is part 2.
This is First and Feral, Utah Unfiltered. Utah born, chaos sworn. No filters, no fluff, just real voices and wild stories from the Beehive State.
How do you feel like this has played a role in your faith with the church?
So I'm going to back up just a little bit. And I'm sorry, it's like such a long story, but I did say God's been a big part of it to answer that question. I remember going to the temple every week. I put my child's name in the temple to be prayed for. And I feel like because of that, I don't think it changes anything, but it gives me the strength. Like my faith gives me the strength to handle it. Because I honestly feel like God was giving me, and like in the church, we say line upon line, right? Mm-hmm. Line upon line, precept upon precept. And I feel like along our journey, there were just like these little guidances of how to handle it. And kind of like almost like an eternal perspective of like, I'm not going to get the whole picture now, and I don't need to. So then let's say we go to 7th grade. So I took you guys to 6th grade. We go to 7th grade, and those friends and junior high kids are talking about bisexual. I think every 7th grader thinks that they're bisexual because they like have these new hormones and they don't understand. They're like, she's beautiful and he's fine. And how do I navigate that? Like, I can think a woman's pretty, but I'm a woman, right? Like, so, and our therapist said that too. She's like, they're like all junior high kids probably think they're bisexual, right? So it's not like news. So they thought they were bisexual, and we had that discussion. Oh, what does that mean to you? Like, let's talk about that. Or their friends. It was always like, so-and-so is bisexual. And Sean and I always talked about how we felt like we were like in an audition. Like, oh, how are mom and dad going to react to this? And then if we passed, then we got the next like audition, right? And so we were always auditioning. We were always being checked to see if we had the right response to be trusted for the next part, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we had moments where we didn't. And it was like we had to work on that. So 7th grade was the beginning of 7th grade was I think I'm bisexual. About 6 months later, a lot of our conversations will happen in the car. So this child and I were in the car talking, and it transformed to like, I feel like a boy spirit in a girl body. And I was like, okay, that's different. Like we went from sexual orientation to gender identity, right?
Yeah.
And that became a really, really like poignant point to be like, okay, these are very different. And I think that's something for people to understand is like sexual orientation is like, do you like boys? Do you like girls? Do you like both? Gender identity is, honestly, I don't know how it fits in the LGBTQ other than it's queer, right? But it ends up, they don't necessarily have to identify who they like or what they like. They're trying to figure out themselves.
They are. Yeah.
And so that was a big shift, right? To say, okay, you're not even talking about your sexual preferences now. You're talking about yourself and your identity. So that was the conversation. And then from there, about 6 months later, it was, I want you to start calling me by this name. And they shifted to having a boy name. And they call that a preferred name. That's what it's called. You guys might know. So they chose a preferred name. And from there, they requested that their other name becomes their dead name. So that person is now dead.
Okay.
Which I want to talk to you as just from like a mother's perspective would be really hard, right? Because you've chosen this name for your child, and now that name is becoming, like you said, dead. It almost would feel like you're losing a little bit of like your baby.
Yeah.
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 You do.
Yeah.
Sorry, it makes me cry. I think that I don't talk and cry at the same time very well. That's something I wrote down in my notes to share is that I had to go through the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And Sean and I had to together. And that's something that you don't show your child. Right?
Yeah.
So our kids never saw us grieve that. But it happened, and it has happened, and it will continue to happen. And that's something that, like, even our extended families have never been part of. That's something that's happened privately.
Yeah.
But you go through the stages of grief, and I mourned that for 14 years I had a daughter. And I still haven't gotten to the point of saying he, and I haven't gotten to the point of referring to them as my son yet. Because in my heart and in our parenting discussions, there's still a lot of room, right? We're in like this holding pattern of like, we have this child who every 6 months things were transitioning and changing, and that is continuing, right? And so we are just leaving space for growth. We're leaving space for open dialogue. We're leaving space to learn. And I mean, for a long time, Sean and I were like, we're not worried. We're not projecting into the future. Like, people will say, well, isn't that just going to be such a lonely life? And aren't you worried about their career choice and who will accept them and these types of things? And Sean and I are like, we just want to get them to age 16, right?
One day.
So, yeah, so it's very present. It's very much like we just are approaching it very present. We're not projecting into the future. And we've accepted that outside of the transgender part of it, we have a neurodivergent child that will be neurodivergent their whole life. And then add the transgender to it, and that will also be something that will be their whole life, however they identify, right? And then another part to it is we've also had the arguments of like, Mom, you just don't understand. You're never going to understand. And I've had to say, I don't. And to just like swallow my pride and say, I don't understand. I never will. But I can love you and I can be your mom and I'm here. And it's also like, in return, I have to say, but you will never understand what it's like to be in my shoes either. And let's come to a common ground of respect. And those are big conversations to have with a teenager that really couldn't care less what their parents had to say, right? But we've gotten to a place of like, you respect my space, I'm going to respect yours, and we're going to hold each other in it.
I think that's good advice. I want to ask you about why you haven't shared with him that you do mourn.
That's a great question.
Is that something like, I'm just wondering if it's something like a therapist gave you advice on, or like, why is it not okay for like him to see that that is a piece that you lost?
Yeah, I think I'll say stuff like, we've had to have discussions of, hey, if I misgender you, right? Or not misgender, but misgender, but mispronoun you. So if I refer to you as she, like, give me some grace, because for 14 years you were my daughter.
Yes.
We've said those things, right? Like, we've talked about that. And so there's been a lot of grace, especially as they've matured. So I think the reason, I've never had anyone ask me that question. So I think the reason I probably haven't mourned in front of them is because I feel like that puts so much pressure on them.
Okay.
And we're protecting, like, I feel like Sean and I have protected them so much from feeling like they're abnormal and that what they're doing is hurtful in any way, because to be completely honest, there's a deep fear of suicide.
Yeah.
And if I knew that, like, let's say, I don't know, okay, so I grew up being taught that premarital sex was bad, right?
Yeah.
Let's just go straight there. And if I were to go to my parents as a 14-year-old and say, like, I've had sex, not only have I had sex, but now I'm pregnant or whatever it be, all of a sudden I'm transferring my pain to them.
Okay.
And I didn't want that for them, is to transfer any of their pain to me and me show that it was painful. But I think that's how any parent would be, because I think if you were to bring that to your parents, they're not going to show you that they're upset with it necessarily or that they're sad, because they don't want to transfer that back to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand.
I guess I don't really know how to, like, articulate that, but, like, we've just protected them and just made them feel very vulnerable, like, let them be vulnerable to us and not transfer the pain back to them.
Which is amazing that you're able to do that as a parent, especially on such a large scale.
I know you mentioned that your side of the family hasn't been as accepting, right? They're having a harder time adjusting to this. Do you see them grieving? Because they probably have that grieving process as well. And you said you haven't opened up to them about grieving and kind of that loss that you feel. I wondered if, yeah.
Yeah, so when we told our families, Sean and I had known for a year, and we had to have, it was one of those times where it's like not our story. It is our story,
Yeah.
but to our child, it's not our story to tell. And so until they gave us permission until they were ready to tell family, like, we didn't. And so once they said they were ready to talk to family about it, we told our families. So, like I said, Sean and I had known for a year. And then it's been a year since, like, a little over a year since we told our families. And initially I was kind of frustrated and mad at how they were responding, right? Because they were like, it was almost like questioning us or honestly, like, not talking about it at all. And then
And
I
you're like,
did
that's
say to
not what we
Sean,
need. Yeah.
yeah, and I did say to Sean, I was like, and I'm, like, usually a person who will give people the benefit of the doubt, right? And so I was like, I have to understand that this is fresh for them, just like it was fresh for us a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's going to take them time to get there. Now, to be honest, I don't think we've had open dialogue enough about it to know that they've been grieving, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair question, and, like, really good for me to recognize and say, like, oh, I probably should hold them in their grief too, because it's hard for everybody. But for some people, it's not hard. Like, we told some friends, and it was just like the next day they made the shift. It wasn't a big deal, whatever. And that's what we told our kid too, is we were just like, people aren't going to be shocked. Like, they're not shocked by it. Jess, were you shocked?
No. So, I think looking back at, your child's life, there was, like, signs, right? And like you're saying, you knew somewhere at age 3, there was a difference. And I can't say I knew that early, but there were signs. And so, no, it's not shocking. I honestly am so proud of you guys for how you've handled it, because when I come into your home, your child is confident and he is himself, and he laughs with you, and he sits down with you, and just me, like, coming into your home to bring you, like, a gift, they want to be with you. And that says volumes for how you've handled this with them. They feel safe with you. And that's the only thing you want as like a
Yeah.
parent is for that child to feel safe and loved in their home. And I think you've done that.
Well, thank you. I think, I mean, it's taken 12 years, you know, it's been a process, but
Yeah.
something I've thought a lot about as the mom is my role. What is my role here? Is my role to control the situation? No. Like no child wants to be controlled. No adult wants to be controlled, right? No, my role is to love, to teach, and to have a safe place for them. And I fall back on that all the time. Like, what is my role here? And that's what we've had to kind of distinguish with family, extended family, is your role is to love. That's your only role. That was your role before this, and that's your role after this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to understand somebody's circumstances to love them. No. Because I will never understand how it is to be my child and what they're going through. Yeah. But I can love them. And as the mom, I teach them. And so I really just feel like asking ourselves, like, what is my role in this situation in regards to anything? Like Jordan, your role to Jessica's daughter is different than Jessica's role, right? And her role to your kids is different. And so you just defining that was a really big, I settled into it a lot more when I realized, like, oh, my family's upset because their role is to love and isn't to understand, it isn't to control. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to see that I'm not trying to control it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm just trying to give space for it. That may not be everyone's approach to it, but that's been ours. And I think that's what's worked for our family, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's good advice for any situation in parenthood, right? Like, just, I think that's good for me to remember when hard situations arise with my kid. Like, what's my role in this? Is it to get angry and to judge or, put precedence on them? It's really just to love them and accept them and make sure they're safe. Right. So I think that's good advice for any situation.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And I feel like that's transcended into my parenting my other kids, right? Because I have 3 other kids. It's not that I just have this one, but I've got 3 other kids that they need to understand their role too, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you, so you're still kind of working through the process of referring to them with their new name. So how do you navigate that? What do you refer to them as?
Yeah, the new name is easy for me.
Okay.
So the name isn't hard. It's actually kind of natural now. That's the name in our home.
Mm-hmm.
They've asked us to refer to them by their quote unquote dead name at church. They understand that at church, this probably wouldn't be a safe place. Granted, my neighborhood, my ward has been unbelievable. So they wouldn't care, I don't think. They know their role, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry. Honestly, they don't need to worry about it. And they don't. Like, I feel like everyone stays in their lane pretty well.
Yeah.
But for their comfort, we do that. So at church, it's the other name, but everywhere else, it's their preferred name. And that hasn't been hard. We changed their preferred name at school. So on the records at school, it's the role has their preferred name.
Good.
And we've had discussions like legally your passport isn't going to have that name.
Mm-hmm.
And your birth certificate and this and that. But everything where we can, we've transitioned to the preferred name. And that hasn't been nearly as hard as the pronouns. I think the pronouns are challenging a little bit because, like, physically, they're a girl, right? Physically, there's girl traits. And like I said, for 14 years, that was my daughter. And so it's been like the she, he, and they. And I think that's why they is kind of where we land, is because it's still like because they're a minor, there's been no physical change, right? And if they choose that in the future, I think it makes that transition a little bit easier, visibly, right? And I don't do as well at it as my husband does. I mean, that's my son. He is all in.
Good.
I will say we have a trans flag that hangs in our child's window, and that's in the very front of the house, so everyone will see it. Like,
I love that.
So as much as I'm saying, like, I'm still getting there, it's more just out of habit. It's not out of like animosity or yeah, like I'm very much supporting my kid over anybody else. Like,
Yeah.
if they have judgment, that's up to them. You
Yeah.
know, that's not my problem.
My next question was going to be, you mentioned that they still attend church and they use that dead name at church. So she still has that relationship there. Is she still, like, have you seen her faith, I guess, be stretched in a way, or what does that
No.
look like?
No, she's very open, and that's where we've had to have some big conversations too. She's very open about not knowing if there's a God. She's very open to, she doesn't have a temple recommend because, I mean, if you're familiar with the temple, it's very gender divided. So she would have to do, or they would have to do female names, proxy, right? I don't know that we need to go into that, but she doesn't have a temple recommend. Doesn't have a testimony, doesn't want to do it. But it's basically, I mean, this sounds so bad, but it's basically like, this is the culture of our family. And if we let you stop, then, you know, what other 14-year-old is going to want to go? And so then our next child is 14 and doesn't want to go. And
Yeah.
And so we've just had to kind of set a standard that, like, in our house, like, this is important to our family. And if anything, it's time together as a family, right? We go, we sit together in the pews, and honestly, like, they haven't fought us on it.
Good.
It's like, she's always the first one ready for church, ready to go. There's a lot of like mutual respect for that.
Good.
But I did say to Sean the other day, like, if I'm going to project anything, and it would be interesting in 10 years from now to see this and be like, oh yeah, that did happen, or yeah, that didn't happen. But I'm like, if I'm going to project, it's going to be that my kid is not going to be attending church or active in the church and will be covered in tattoos. You know, like, which is probably crazy for a lot of people that know me, right? It's like, you wouldn't, I think first off, you would think that I would reject my child probably in regards to this, because I am such an orthodox.
Oh, I wouldn't think that about
I
you.
don't think that one bit.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Because I do think a lot of LDS parents, that's their first response, is to like disown their kids because they can't understand it, right? But like that has never been the case. And then obviously I would love for them to be in the church, and I would love for them to want to have a family and all these things, but like, that's not their goals, and I can't force that upon them.
Do you feel like that's a strain between, like, in your relationship where you have such a strong testimony? Is that?
It was.
Okay.
It was. It's not anymore. No.
Okay.
Again, it was the conversation of like, we had a really heated discussion, but it was like, but I don't believe in God, and I don't want to do this, and that kind of teenage talk. And it was just like, wait. Like, you are disrespecting something so personal to me, and I am not doing that to you.
Yeah.
So if we're going to play that game, like, let me tell you all my feels towards what you're going through, right? And so it was one of those conversations of like, you don't have to believe this, but you have to respect that I do. And again, I think that transcends into every relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to believe it, but at least respect that I do. And and so that's where we've landed, and vice versa. Like, and so we just have a lot of open dialogue. I will say, when we told my parents, they were so amazing about it. And then probably like a week or so later, as things kind of settled, my dad called me and he was like, are you prepared to either lose your marriage or you lose your testimony over this.
Oh.
He goes, because that is the trend. People don't stay in the church that have a child like this. And you see that. Like, I'm not going to deny that. And I was like, Dad, I don't feel like I have to lose either of those things. I feel like I can keep both, right? Because it would either be like Sean and I are at odds and we don't parent it the same, and that's a strain to our marriage, or we have a strain to our testimony. And I just said to him, I don't feel like I have to lose either of those things. And I don't. And honestly, like in the future, I hope to write the book that I didn't have. Because the first thing I did when they came out as transgender is I went to Deseret Book and I looked. I said, where's your LGBTQ section? Like, I need support as an active member of the church. And they have nothing on transgender. There's nothing. So I read all the books about parents of gay children in the church or gay members who have either stayed in the church. We pulled what we could, and that helped. But I'm like, I'm going to, I'll give it more time, but I hope to write the book that wasn't there for me, and that's kind of where I've settled a little bit. And I hope that happens,
I hope this for you too. We're manifesting it. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. I
Thanks,
think
Jordan.
that's so powerful.
That is amazing.
You're going to do it. I'll push you.
Just know I said it out loud.
Where's the book, Anna?
In 10 years, we're going to be waiting for the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
10 years, we'll have a book and maybe a kid covered in tattoos.
Yeah. Amazing. I can't wait to see it.
I think though that kind of leads into the next question of like, if you were to speak to parents that are just starting this journey, what would be your advice to them?
I think my advice would be to get into therapy.
Okay.
I feel like that's been a really healthy place. Now, that's not for everyone, right? Like, I think you have to find the right fit. That's helped us. My other advice would be to evaluate, like, kind of what we were talking about. What's your role? Like, how do they define their role in this situation? And then from there, work towards it. But I don't think you have to be afraid of the future. I think you just have to, like, be in the present with it, which is really hard for us to do, right? We're always
Especially
projecting.
as moms. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I
mean,
think
it's
to let them know that they're going to mourn. Like, from what I read in the books that I did read that I got, like, that's very normal because you've envisioned this life for your kid and it's going to be very different than that. So, I mean, maybe those three things is just like seek out therapy, identify your role, let yourself mourn. It's funny because I thought the transgender journey was our hard, right? Because we were in it. We were in it. Sorry.
You are in it. You are.
We are in it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like, okay, this is our hard right now. Like, we just got to work on this and get to a good place. And we never got to a good place necessarily when I got diagnosed. And so it was like last November is when it was like,
just add that on top of everything.
Well,
tell us
about what
it was
happened last
Thanksgiving, and it was just like, I hate you, Mom, I hate you. And I'm like, wow, I just got diagnosed with cancer and you hate me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But it's totally transformed our relationship. So I told my mom early on, probably 6 months ago, I was like, I would go through all of this again if it meant that like I could get my relationship back with my kid. So
yeah.
Good.
Anyway.
I'm glad you're like seeing the light of it.
Anyway.
Well, talk to us about November. You keep mentioning a diagnosis. So let's talk about what you were diagnosed
with. So I was actually diagnosed in October with breast cancer. So I went in for it was a late 40-year well check. I was 41, but I went in for a 40-year mammogram and it was abnormal. And so I did all the tests. So I did mammogram, I did ultrasound, I did biopsies and MRIs. And so I was diagnosed with what's called IDC. It's invasive ductal carcinoma. And I had just like a 1.6 centimeter. Yeah. 1.6 centimeter tumor in my left chest, in my left breast. And it was determined to, that I needed surgery and radiation was basically it. And then some hormone therapy. So my cancer is ER positive. And at the time it was ER positive, HER2 negative, which meant it didn't need chemotherapy. I just have to do estrogen inhibitors. Well, we opted, instead of doing mastectomies or a mastectomy, we opted to do a lumpectomy. Okay, so that was October, and then I had to go through some genetic testing to see if I had the BRCA gene and some other genetic mutations, which I don't have any of, which is huge and wonderful. And then we determined to do surgery the end of last year. So December 31st, 2024, I was having a lumpectomy. I get the lumpectomy, and 2 weeks later, I get the pathology report that says that they're like the margins, which means the edge of the tissue that they took still had cancer. So it was showing that it wasn't just the tumor, but it was other places, which hadn't shown up in any of my scans that I had, like even the MRI. So I go back in for another lumpectomy, and I get the pathology report, and it shows that there's still cancer on the edges. So at this point, my surgeon she's like, it's very rare to do a third lumpectomy. We usually do a mastectomy at this point. And she's like, you can just do a single. So you just remove the one side. It's showing it's covered in cancer. It's probably, you probably need to get a mastectomy. And to be completely honest with you guys, like our oldest, going back to our transgender conversation, all she wants is hormone inhibitors and top surgery, right? So this is exactly what her mom is having to have, is hormone inhibitors and top surgery. And it was so hard to make that decision because I already had this fragile relationship, because in November at Thanksgiving, that's kind of when like they were picking which family and which parent was on their side. And so I thought it would be a reason for like resentment towards me, and like just add like to why they would hate me, right? Like, you're nodding, you get it, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was one of those times where I was like, gosh, this is just a mean joke. Like, how do I do this? I can't navigate this. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't have top surgery. Like, I can't have mastectomy. So I begged, and I didn't tell my surgeon, but I just begged her. I said, please just do a third lumpectomy. Would you do it? And that's because Sean and I were having these big conversations at home of like, I can't give her another reason to resent me. So the surgeon agrees to do a third lumpectomy, and the pathology comes back and there's still cancer on the edges. And she's already taken like so much of my breast tissue out that at this point I have like my right side's a C cup, my left side's an A cup, you know? So I was already looking weird. And she just said, I can't take any more breast tissue. You don't really have much left. And I was like, okay. She goes, go home and take a week and decide if you want to do a single mastectomy or a double. Well, I decided to do a double because none of the scans that I had, none of the tests had showed that I had this extra cancer that was showing up, right? And so I was like, what are the odds that I go in 6 months to get a mammogram on my right side and it shows that there's cancer? So I choose to do, and obviously if I'm getting religious, I was extremely prayerful. I was going to the temple. I was feeling very okay with getting a double mastectomy at this point, which now it's like March. So I had that surgery in the end of December. Now it's March. And I end up getting a double mastectomy. And I mean, we had to tell our kids what was happening. I was needing some help and all that. So I get the surgery, And then what they do is they take all the tissue that they remove and they send that into pathology. So they send all my tissue into pathology, and I get a phone call 2 weeks later from my doctor that says, we need to have a conversation. And at this point, I'm like, I got all the cancer out. I probably won't need radiation. Like, because if they take all the tissue out, there's nothing to radiate, right? And so I'm like thinking that was the hard. Again, I'm thinking, oh, this is the hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and she says, your breast tissue on your right side shows that you have a different cancer, a different breast cancer on your right side. And I was just like, what? Like blindsided completely. Had no idea that was even possible. So that cancer was HER2 positive, which meant that I needed to have chemotherapy. And I had already settled that I didn't have to. And so I was in such a good place. And then to find out that you have to, it was very hard, very, very hard to get that news because I mean, I had celebrated that I didn't have to do that, right? So fast forward like to May and I start chemotherapy and I did 12 rounds of chemo. Obviously lost my hair because now this is what I look like. So I was bald and then I did 3 months of chemo. Then they give me 7 weeks after chemo before I have reconstruction. Well, not that they give me 7 weeks, but they say you can't have reconstruction until 6 weeks after chemo, right? You need to heal from chemo and all that. So, but I wanted to have reconstruction done before the holidays. I wanted to feel healthy for the holidays because last year was crazy. I was like, I don't want to do another year of crazy. So I chose to do reconstruction pretty much as soon as I could after chemo. And I did it the 1st of October. And I did like a mommy makeover type of reconstruction. So instead of getting implants, they took my lower abdomen, stomach, like the little pouch you have, right? They took that, they did a tummy tuck, and they used that tissue as my new chest.
That's
Just so
amazing.
crazy that they can do
It's
that. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I will tell you, it was a horrendous recovery.
Oh.
So I'm now, let's see, Wednesday will be 11 weeks out from that surgery. So I'm in a really good place now. So from here, I just do shots every 3 weeks for the HER2 protein. It's a HER2 protein inhibitor, so it blocks the HER2 protein. I'll start estrogen inhibitors, and I'm kind of at the tail end of things. So it's been a wild, wild year. And if I will say, my oldest watching me go through this, we do have jokes like, oh, mom, you got to have top surgery and I don't.
That was going to be my next question because you
Yeah.
mentioned you were worried about that straining your relationship a little bit. Did she hold resentment?
It's almost like she watched me go through it and I just saw a softer side to them. And like I said, I mess up all the pronouns, so I'm sorry. And that might offend somebody else going through this journey, and I just ask for grace. But like, no, they watched me go through it, and it's been fine. And I couldn't have predicted that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was so afraid, but then I had to do it, and it was like, oh. But then there is this part of me, and it's still a small part, but there is this part of me that like says, oh, well, when they're 25 and do end up getting a double mastectomy,
Yeah.
I know what they're experiencing. Like I can be empathetic and compassionate in a real way because I've been there, and it'll be a different experience. And then there's this part of me that's like, I also am here if they want to ask me questions about it. Like, was it worth it, mom? Like, should I do it? Because that would be elective, right? And so it would just be like, yeah, like, how do you feel? Because, I mean, there's a lot of change. Like, there's numbness. It will never feel like a natural body, right? When you do that. And so I just would hope if that came later, that there would be a lot of just real talk about it and no jumping quickly into it.
Has it opened up that dialogue with them?
Yeah, it has a little bit more just like in jest, I think. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my mom's getting hormone therapy and top surgery and I can't, just
Yeah.
that more just like that,
Yeah.
which I can appreciate. I'm like, let's like have a sense of humor where we can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot of crazy. And if I'm going back to like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I really think because I watched that during my recovery from this awful surgery,
Yeah.
it really took me away from all the drama in my life because I feel like it has been so intense. I feel like it was stacked on stacked.
It was for you.
Right?
Yeah, it was for you.
And yeah. And
Do
so I'm like,
you
it's been really intense for like 2.5 years.
do you feel like it, like, did you ever have any like questioning or doubt, or like, I mean, I'm sure yes you did, but I mean with faith in general, where it just kept stacking, were you just like, when is it gonna stop? Did it ever Did you ever
Yeah,
question like why?
I don't know. No,
Okay.
to answer it because like I'm of the belief of there's people that'll ask why me,
Yeah.
and I'm the kind of person that's like why not me? Like I'm no exception, right?
Yeah.
And so I never questioned that. I just think that that has been where I've pulled strength more
Mm.
than anything. Like I totally understand that life is going to have hard things and everybody's are hard. I have joked like, God, why couldn't you spread out the trials a little bit?
Yeah,
Like I don't need them all at once.
yeah, true. Yeah.
Like I can handle them, but all at once is a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. But I did share in Relief Society yesterday at church. I shared just my thought that like you can either turn bitter towards God or you can get better. And so I've chosen this as like an opportunity to be refined and to become better and not bitter. Because I mean, being bitter doesn't solve anything either, right? Like it just makes it harder. So I really have leaned into my faith more than asked questions. Now, that's not to say I haven't been angry and I haven't been mad and I
Yeah.
haven't had some really passionate conversations with God, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think but I also have experienced the power of prayer and like in a real way that I don't even know how to articulate in words and I don't even try to. And I would never wish an experience like this upon somebody just so that they can experience that buoyancy, but I really have been carried through it in a way that like I can't deny that like it's been a superpower, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something bigger than me.
You also earlier spoke about an internal perspective, right? Like long in the future, you may look, I mean, I'm sure you'll look back and understand why, why it
Yeah.
has, why it was all stacked on you at one time, or so it felt that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have asked God like why do I need to be refined so painfully so
Yeah.
much right now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would like to project into the future and see what it was. Another thing I shared too is like in Relief Society yesterday is that some of our trials are short and some of them are for our whole life, right? And I think we often just talk about like how soon it'll be over with. Like my cancer, let's say this journey is going to be 18 months, probably in the whole grand scheme of things. That's not a super long time, but when you're in it, it feels like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also have some things with my kids that'll be their whole lives and my whole life, and I just have to reconcile that's okay. And it doesn't have to be solved right now because I do try to keep that eternal perspective of like, it's just short term and there's a bigger picture that I don't have to have the answers to or understand to have faith in it,
Yeah. Watching you through this though, like you do a really good job at holding your head high and like just you share a lot about your journey to help someone else. And watching you do that, I feel like You stay very positive. But what I love about you the most is I can text you and say, hey, like, what's really going on? What's this? And you will open the door and be like, I am mad. I am this. I am this. And that's why I love you, though, is because you truly show like all sides. Like, you're not just pretending that this is easy or that, hey, there's a reason for it. God is, you know, I'm being held through this. You really show like who you are and like what's happening, what's real. And that's what I feel like I can connect you with about so much, is because it's never pretend with you.
I mean, I don't have a secret life.
No.
I believe that. I do. I believe it.
Yeah, and that's huge though, because like I feel like there's just so much that we're seeing online that is just always filtered. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I feel like online I don't feel like I'm like toxically positive online. I think it's pretty real there too, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm not gonna like the part of it that I didn't share in my Instagram, if we're referring to that, is I didn't share anything about like my trepidation in having a double mastectomy, right?
No, because so that kind of made it full circle for me, is listening to you right now, because for me, I watched a family member just right before your diagnosis go through this. And so I think when you were diagnosed, it hit me very hard because I had just watched someone I love go through this.
Yeah.
So I knew what you're going to be faced with, and that scared me. But watching you decide, okay, we're going to do a lumpectomy and then another one and then a third one, I was in my mind thinking like, why? Right? I didn't need to know why, but it is making more sense.
Yeah, no, so many people were like, if it were just me, I'd just chop them off. Or why aren't you just lobbing them off? And I was like...
Also, very easy to say when you're not in your position.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know?
It's not that easy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. But you are very enlightening. I feel like I'm so glad I talked to you today, because I am going to take what you said and apply this, because I am struggling to parent a 4-year-old at the moment who is very
Are we all
strong-headed.
struggling to parent?
Yeah. Yes. And so I am going to take a step back and see what is my role here.
Yeah. Anyway.
You're so cute. I appreciate like you sharing. I know this is like super personal and like really heavy for your family. So I appreciate you jumping on here and being vulnerable with it, because it's helping me like understand, even just looking at someone in the grocery store differently, right? And trying to be compassionate.
No, you're amazing. Oh my goodness.
I just love you.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. And again, like I said, it's my perspective. So I'm sharing my experience. Not my husband's, not my child's, not anyone else's, right? And so
yeah.
Also, what's interesting about Jess and I starting the podcast is like we really have to preference like this is just our experience. Like we're not speaking for anyone. I've been like so concerned about it. I'm like, I promise I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm just telling you like how I felt at the time. So it has been interesting that way. But I also think it's super powerful because, like I said, just to have like a community of moms and like we're all going through stuff, right? We're all just trying to raise our kids to be like loving people and kind people in the world. And I just think it's important to be able to share that message. So I'm proud.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Jordan. You guys are awesome.
If you or a loved one is experiencing something similar, support resources are linked below. You are not alone.
Thanks for listening to First and Feral, Utah Unfiltered. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay a little feral.